Well, we just read that psalm, and this psalm is about a battle lost. It's about a battle won. And that immediately might feel a little bit remote to us because, thank God, we're not in a physical battle at the moment. But everyone in this room has faced many fights in their life, right? And you'd call that a battle at times, wouldn't you? A battle with sickness, with broken relationships, with worries about the future, with that daily struggle, if you're a follower of Jesus, with temptation. So what can this psalm teach us? Because notice in the title, David says it is for teaching. In other words, he'd been through a fight, he'd learned a lesson, and now he wants to pass that lesson on to us. But here's the thing, the psalm doesn't read the way you would expect it to. It's not just a victory song, and neither is it a lament. It asks awkward questions right in the middle of the battle, and that's where we need to listen if we're going to find help in our fight. All right, could my 3 volunteers come and join me, please? Quick bit of history and geography, all right? You up for that? Won't take long, but you need to understand it. Quick bit of history and geography. Right, you're going to come and stand just here. Thank you. If you can come and just stand here, and if you can come and stand on this side here, that would be great. Thank you. All of you facing the front. Beautiful. Right, welcome to the movers and shakers of the time. All right? This is King Hadadezer, right? And he's the king of that rather too green land to the north of Aramea. There were lots of kingdoms there, but Hadadezer's kind of the real top dog, okay? And then in the middle, you've got David. See what I did there? His name's David. You've got King David. He is king of Israel, right? And he's the big dog at that time. And then you've got, well, he doesn't have a name.
Oh, great.
He doesn't have a name. But he represents Edom to the south. You can see there in yellow, right? Now, this is what happened. Really simple. King Hadadezer suddenly finds that to the north of him, there are some other Arameans who he could attack. They're a bit weak at the moment. So he turns and he starts to attack them. Brilliant. King David, it's not his first rodeo, thinks, okay, while he's occupied there, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn and I'm going to attack Hadadezer. Yes. So he rushes all the way up to the north of the country and attacks Hadadezer. And then Edom, who's been sitting quietly, goes, oh, that was a mistake, David, because you've left your capital, Jerusalem, right at the south, exposed. And he turns and he rushes into Israel. And so that's where we find David, at the north of his country. Down south, there have been some terrible battles that they've lost. Just thinking, what the heck is going on? And by the way, I think, isn't it interesting that poor old Edom doesn't have a name and Aram does? We've got a king, Hadadezer. Some of the battles we fight, we know, they're obvious. You could name them right now. Some, we don't know. It's just a feeling that something's wrong, a sense of despair. It's vague and it's uncertain. I think that's perhaps why we don't know the name of the Edomites and we do know the name of the king of Aram. All right, that's your geography and history lesson overwards. Congratulations, guys. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Let's come back to our passage, shall we? So here's David fighting in the north, gets the news, and he's confused. And in verse 10, he says, God, why do you not go out with our armies? right? And then in verses 1 to 3, he pours out how he feels to God. Look what he says. You have rejected us, God, and burst upon us. You've been angry. And the words he uses are kind of like the most destabilizing images he could come up with. He describes it like an earthquake. The ground is, I've never been in an earthquake. The ground's kind of quaking and everything's disorientated. Or it's like someone who's being drugged and they're staggering around, not sure which way is up and which way is down. The rug's being pulled from underneath David's world. But notice in all of this, David doesn't blame God. He just takes his pain to him. 3 times he says, you've done this, God. But he doesn't assume he's being punished. And he doesn't claim to know God's reasons for doing it. He simply faces the reality that he knows, and it's this. His life has been shaken, but God still remains sovereign over it all. And I think it's helpful because I think when bad things happen to us, I don't know about you, but I go to my wife certainly goes to the why question, right? Why? Why don't you stop wars? Why don't you heal the sick? Why don't you fix my family? Why don't you change my job? And we've asked this at Harbour, haven't we? Recently, Lord, why have you allowed Tim to get sick? Why don't you restore him to us? Why have you allowed this to happen now? But did you notice David doesn't ask why? He asks something much deeper. Where are you, Lord? Doesn't actually say it, but I think that's the feel of this psalm. All the way through, he's pleading, look, will you not come to our aid? Where are you? What is going on? You promised to be with us. Where are you? And that's the model for us. When life shakes and the ground feels unsteady, don't get trapped in the why, constantly asking why. I mean, it's all right to do that. It's not, God's big enough. He can do it. But I think a better question is, God, where are you? Where are you? Ask him to come close. Ask him to be present in the middle of it. Now, let me just try and illustrate that and show you what that looks like in practice, okay? Recently, in the last 6 months, I began writing my prayers, okay? Not with a pen, because I can't read my handwriting anymore, and I'm not even sure the Lord could read it, but typing my prayers to God. It sounds a bit strange. Bear with me. It's really helped me to concentrate and actually to think about what I'm saying. I created a little journal called Prayer, and when life feels like Psalm 60, I take 5 minutes and I just pour out my heart to the Lord. And that helps me to be honest with him, to invite him into the situation. Don't worry, I'm not suggesting that you should start typing your prayers, but what about you? What helps you express yourself to God? Speaking aloud in the car, writing in a notebook, using a journaling Bible? Is it kneeling, raising your hands? Is it singing, drawing, or just quietly focusing on a verse? What helps you? Because whatever it is, do it. Like David, bring everything to God. And as you do, remind yourself, he's here. He's listening. He's not forgotten me. Well, wonderfully, the psalm doesn't end there. God answers. He speaks into the confusion and pain. I want to quickly show you how that works in this psalm. 3 really simple ways that God speaks to David. Okay? And here's the first. I'm here, he says. Return to me. I'm here, turn to me. Look what David says in verse 4. But for those who fear you, you have raised a banner to be unfurled against the bow. Again, it's all military kind of talk here. Bit strange to us. But have you ever been in a an old church building. This is Salisbury Cathedral. Looked up on the wall, and have you seen the regimental flags hanging in some of the church buildings? They're very old usually. They're regimental colours, and sometimes they're even riddled with bullet holes. And what happened in battles of old was soldiers carried the banners so that in the smoke and the chaos, they could look up, they could see, that's where my captain is, that's where the rest of my troop is, I've got a little bit cut off here, and go to them and rally. And that's what is happening here. In the midst of confusion and pain, David looks up, he sees the Lord's banner, and because he fears him, he returns to him. Now that word fear might seem a bit strange to us. Why fear God? Do you remember that verse we started with at the beginning in Jeremiah 10, verse 6? There's none like you, O Lord. You're great, your name is great in might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? For this is your due, for among all the wise ones of the nations and in all their kingdoms, there is no one like you. There's none like you. Can you feel the awe there? This is the King. And even in the hardships, David's been recognizing God's unmatched greatness and authority over the nations. And so when trouble comes, he returns in humility, in worship, in obedience. Now, we don't know exactly why this setback, this military setback occurred, but the psalm hints at something. It seems that Israel has stopped relying on God. David's a young king. He had a really successful start. And you know what it's like sometimes? You begin to believe your own press, right? You begin to think that, do you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm a good king. Not like any of these other guys. But he pauses here and he deliberately turns back to God again and he prays in verse 5, save us and help us with your right hand, that those you love may be delivered. What a great prayer. He admits you have a powerful right hand. I am so sorry, God. I thought I was strong. I realize I'm not. You are, so please would you help me? It's so simple, isn't it? And yet, I don't know about you, isn't it hard to do? You might think, I just feel like a hypocrite, Andy. I mean, I got myself into this mess. I need to fix it, right? But you see, pride is precisely the problem. No, humble yourself. Ask God for help. Let him rescue you. Well, then the question is, well, why would he? After all I've done. Well, look at verse 5 again. Help us so that those you love may be delivered. Those you love. Some other translations say, beloved. God knows you've strayed. But to him, you're beloved. Do you realize that? And he's calling you back. So look, perhaps this might, I don't know, maybe I'm talking to you and you're in the smoke of battle, right? Or perhaps you soon will be. And it can be confusing and disorientating. But remember, like David, look up, see God's banner, know that he's here, and return to him. Here's the second thing. God says, I'm here. I'm ruling over it all. This is a moment when God suddenly speaks into the psalm. David's been talking so often. It's almost like God cuts in on him. The holy God speaks from his sanctuary. He declares his will. And he says this to his people in verse 6, in triumph, I will parcel out Shechem and measure off the valley of Succoth. That means nothing to us, right? But these two places, Shechem in the center of the land and Succoth across the Jordan, they stand as markers, almost like boundary lines for Israel as a whole. And what God's saying is, do you know what? David, the land is mine. I can distribute it and divide it up as easily as you might cut up a cake. Verse 7, Gilead is mine and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim's my helmet. Judah is my scepter. He's talking about tribes of Israel. Ephraim, the fierce warriors of the north, they're his helmet. Judah, the royal tribe, is his scepter. This is the tribe that Jesus would come from. Every part of Israel, warriors, kings, land. He's saying, I've got it. I've got you. You're in my hand. Worry? And then I love it. His gaze turns to their enemies, verse 8. And he says, Moab is my wash basin. On Edom I toss my sandal. Over Philistia I shout in triumph. What seems terrifying to Israel, these neighboring enemies? To him, Moab, basin I wash my feet in. Edom, oh, so weak. Do you know what? Put these on special this morning. Do you know what? I just toss my sandal at them. And they're nothing to me. Philistia, I shout. And I have victory over them. Don't you see? Now I've got one shoe on. Just do that. I feel a bit silly. Look, the point is simple. He's not like us, is he? He doesn't worry. He doesn't scramble. He doesn't struggle. He's calm. He's sovereign. He's unstoppable. Every threat to his people is already under his command. And when life feels overwhelming, when Moab or Edom loom over you, just remember, to God, these threats are like a sandal or a wash basin. He's in control. And if you trust Christ, you are safe in his hands, no matter how huge the challenge is. And look, please, friends, it doesn't mean, I'm not saying, and do you know what? If you become a Christian, life will be great. You will have no problems. We are not God. The world is not under our control. But it does mean this. If you follow Jesus Christ, you're held in his hands. Nothing gets to you without getting through his hands. You are precious, you are beloved, and in the midst of life's battles, he is with you, and he's not frightened, and he's not overwhelmed, and he is quietly ruling over your life, even though it doesn't feel like it. Nothing can ultimately threaten your eternal future, because he's sovereign, right? Last thing God says is this: look, I'm here, trust my power. David asks in verse 9, who will bring me to the fortified city? Who will lead me to Edom? He knows where the enemy is. He's going to have to go rushing down south and fight Edom. He knows what needs to be done, but he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't really know what he's got to do. And isn't that often our position? We see the obstacle, we can name the struggle, but we don't have the strength to overcome it ourselves. And verse 10 just sharpens it. He says, is it not you, God? You who've now rejected us and no longer go out with our armies? You've abandoned us, but we can't win without you. And I think that's the turning point. Verse 11 puts it plainly. Give us aid against the enemy, for human help is worthless. See, David's fight meant a real battle. For us as a church, it's something deeper. We have enemies, not flesh and blood. Sin, death, Satan. They're far stronger than we are. There's no point trying to fight them with human help. And yes, they're helpful resources, and it's good for us to plan and strategize. But our confidence isn't in that, is it? Ultimately, we need God. And here's the great gospel truth. God never leaves his people to fight alone. Verse 12 tells us, with God, we will gain the victory, and he will trample down our enemies. So what does that mean? How are we going to live that out? Do we just go, oh, don't worry, just let go and let God? No. Or do we, buckle down, work harder? No. Neither. Because it's both. Notice the rhythm here. We will gain, he will trample. We act in faith, we do stuff, but God's action is decisive. Our efforts alone are worthless. Partner with God, our obedience is transformed. So for us, it means we don't sit back and wait for God to do everything, and we don't charge ahead as though it all depends on us. We fight, but we fight depending on him. And that, I don't know what that means for you. It might mean the courage to speak about Christ, to speak about your faith, even when you feel nervous. Perseverance to pray when answers just seem slow. Faithfulness to resist temptation when, to be honest, it'd be easy just to give in and give up. Or commitment to serve and build up the church when you feel tired, when you feel overlooked and undervalued. And we do this because we're strong. No. We do this because he is strong. We're weak, right? And what God will do is he'll take our small efforts this week and he'll use them and make them part of his great victory. We often sing here a song called The Battle Belongs, and there's a great line that just says this: we'll fight on our knees with our hands lifted high. Now, which bit do you find hardest? Fighting? Action? Doing stuff for God? Or is it prayer? Trusting, committing everything to him? As a church, Harbour needs to be both. We are not one or the other. We've got to be both. And as we start to open up this vision, it's going to involve both. Fighting with our hands lifted high. So look, when life shakes and you don't know which way is up, first of all, look and see his banner. He's with you. He's calling you to return. When enemies kind of loom over you, it feels overwhelming. Remember, he rules over all. And when you feel weak and helpless, trust his power. With God, we will gain the victory, for he is with us. The battle belongs to the Lord. And so do we, right? Let's go forward together.